Good afternoon to everybody. Well, we are meeting after a little while, after the holidays. So, everyone enjoyed their holidays? Good. So, what we will do today, we will have a group presentation of a case study, and the name of the case study is ABC Engineering, New Delhi. The interesting part of this case is that unlike the previous cases which we dealt with, this one deals with a relatively smaller company, a company set up by an entrepreneur, a civil servant turned entrepreneur, A.K. Kapoor. So, Mr. A.K. Kapoor had a long and distinguished career in the Indian civil service, and whilst in his career as a civil servant, he had occasion to deal with the sugarcane farmers and came into contact with the sugar processing. And in his capacity as an administrator, he had helped the sugar farmers during the lean days in setting up a crushing mill for the sugar of a small capacity, 600 tons. And when he retired, he wanted to continue as an entrepreneur, and he set up a sugar crushing unit by buying out the old unit which had been set up with his encouragement during his civil service days. And thus started his venture into entrepreneurship. So, this is a small business started by processing of sugar, and over the next few years he expanded his business into supplying cement, building factories for making cement, building more factories for sugar crushing, till he had a large number of cement and sugar units spread across the country. His main expertise was therefore developed in the sugar and cement businesses. So far as his marketing was concerned, he fell back on his extensive contacts in the government, and that was his forte. As he says in the case, he knows the sugar and cement industry and the government buyers like the palm of his hand. During the course of the growth of the ABC group into the sugar and cement business, he also started a small workshop, basically with the idea of making spare parts for the sugar and cement machinery in the various factories which he had set up. And over the years, they gained expertise of manufacturing the sugar and cement machinery also, that is graduated slowly from making only spare parts to making the full machinery for the production of cement and sugar. So, that is how the business grew, and the engineering unit was established. Thereafter, as and when he set up more sugar and cement industries, instead of buying the machinery from other manufacturers, he then started building the machinery in his engineering workshop and supplying it to his other units. During his business, he has support from loyal subordinates who were with him right from the civil service days. So, essentially, it took the path of growth of the normal family concern set up by an entrepreneur. His eldest son B.K. Kapoor, he sent abroad to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, very famous engineering and scientific institution. B.K. did his mechanical engineering from MIT, worked for some time in America, and then went to Germany, got some practical experience in working in Germany, and then came back and joined his father's company. In fact, it was BK who was largely responsible for developing the small engineering unit for making spare parts into a viable modern factory which had the capacity and capability of making entire cement and sugar plants and machinery. And it was BK's dream, in fact, to make that engineering unit into one of the top 3 suppliers of plant and machinery in India, on par with L&T's unit and the unit at Walchand Industries. BK apparently was a brilliant engineer, but where he lacked, as his father said, was the business acumen or the business sense. And being very much a brilliant engineer, he went in for innovation, he went in for quality, he went in for sophistication in the machineries. But what worried his father, A.K. Kapoor, was his lack of concern for costs and his lack of concern for, as his father said, the business. He said, I wish BK would soon gain the business acumen. So, this is the kind of case we are covering today. And we as consultants, let us say, that is the group which is making the presentations, has been asked to make the strategic plan for ABC Company, New Delhi, for the next 5 years. Why strategic plan? Because in a sense the ABC Company was on the threshold of a major expansion. They had overcome the earlier trials and tribulations of setting up a small business. They had stabilized, they had diversified in their chosen field, and now the time has come when the company saw further growth ahead, particularly in the engineering, where BK was very keen to expand the engineering unit, diversify into other plants and machinery, starting with the paper plant. So, growth and diversification, and the question of therefore transforming a small or relatively small family owned company into a large company vying with the leaders in the chosen line of businesses in the country. And hence, AK intuitively felt that the time had come, as he was in his late 60s and his son had already come into the business, the time had come to professionalize the company. In the meanwhile, his second son, the younger son, CK, had passed his Masters in Commerce from Delhi University and had been inducted into the family concern as the administrative director. So, the elder son was the technical director, the father was the chairman, the younger son was the administrative director. And the other senior people in the company, the general manager, was an old trusted employee of AK when he was in the civil service. And we had other people, particularly in the stores and purchase, who were old and loyal employees. Since the general manager was aging and in failing health, AK had inducted a young professional as the deputy general manager of administration. And this young professional had been working in an insurance company, a large insurance company, and had a reportedly good track record as an administrator. And so, AK, through references given by some of his friends, had recruited him. And his idea was that the GM who was in failing health would ultimately step aside as an advisor, and the new entrant who was taken as the deputy general manager would then fill his place and professionalize. Now, in order for us to give the strategic plan for the next 5 years, all right, we would need to follow a kind of model. And the model would be first assessing the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. Strength and weaknesses. Now, these are entities which are internal to the organization, whereas opportunities and threats are those entities which are external to the organization. That is the marketplace, the regulatory environment, the political dispensation. All these make up for the opportunities and the market threats that any company experiences. So, we have here a strategic plan framework which may be followed whilst carrying out the exercise of presenting a strategic plan for 5 years for ABC Engineering Company. Let us see here first the internal elements. Internal is internal to the organization. So, number 1 here is the vision and the mission. Now, what is the vision and the mission? Well, there are several ways in which they may be described, but essentially vision and mission are the elements of fundamental business of the organization, fundamental business of the organization. So, a vision would and a mission would outline what business the company is in, all right, whereas the vision is more a statement of a desired goal. The mission is more practical in terms of outlining the route by which, the roadmap by which the company wishes to achieve that goal. And then the next element are the goals or the actual practical objectives which flow from the vision and mission. So, it is necessary that during the analysis process for making the 5-year strategic plan, we try and enunciate that in the case of ABC company, what is its vision, what is its mission, and how these are translated into specific goals for the organization in the next 5 years. And usually the tool which is employed, as I said, is the SWOT analysis. SWOT, S for strength, W for weakness, O for opportunities and T for threats. Now, when we talk of SWOT analysis, we may look at it within the framework of the important functions of the organization. In this case, it is a manufacturing and selling organization. It is in the manufacturing sector. It is in the heavy engineering sector, that is cement, steel, in the sense that it makes machinery for cement, pardon me, not steel but sugar industry. It is also in the commodity business because it manufactures sugar, it manufactures cement, and therefore it markets these commodities. So, in the strategic plan, in the analysis, SWOT analysis, when we talk of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats, we can align each of these 4 elements with each function and build a matrix. So, so far as marketing is concerned, it would have its strengths, its weaknesses, its opportunities and its threats. Manufacturing also would have as a function its strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and its threats, and similarly the other major functions, that is finance, human resource, information, R&D, quality and so on. That is the major functions of the operational elements of the company could be aligned again, having its own strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. And these then would be the elements or entities, as we said, which is internal to the organization. Then external to the organization, competition, that is the first, local as well as global. Competitive environment. Who are the players in the market in which ABC Engineering is today? Who would be likely players in the same market in the next 5 years? New players may enter. Similarly, what is the kind of competition you have from within the country, and what would be the dispensation after 5 years? Would it also include competition from outside the country, that is international competition? These are questions to be examined whilst making the strategic plan. Then the industry, the current size of the industry, the profitability of the industry, the structure of the industry. Is it a fragmented industry with a large number of players, each holding a small market share? Or is it a mature industry which has consolidated and a few players command the major market share of this industry? And all this along a continuum of 5 years. What is it today and what is it likely to be, the projections in the next 5 years? Amongst the external elements, apart from competition and the industry, there is the regulatory environment, which is very, very important, because these form very often the very underpinnings of the business, all right, in which you are in. Community consideration. More and more, when you are operating within a community, as a company, organization, a factory, there are considerations of community in the sense of the pollution which you may bring into the community, the kind of products that you manufacture and how it impacts the community, the kind of pricing that you do, and whether this falls within the expectations of the community and the regulatory environment, and so on. And then we have the entry and exit barriers. When we talk of diversification, let us say, and we include that in the strategic plan, we will talk of adding products, maybe services. Now, the ones which we go in, is it difficult to enter it, and is it difficult to exit it? What is the situation? If we find it difficult, would competitors also find it difficult? Should we choose a product where we have strengths and where the competitors do not have strengths? These are some of the questions which have to be addressed whilst making the strategic plan for ABC. Then the important question of know-how. Know-how and expertise for manufacture, know-how and expertise for marketing, know-how and expertise for information technology and finance in the chosen area of diversification. Very often, if we don't have the know-how, how are we going to acquire it? Are we going to go to collaborators, sign MOUs, enter into agreement with collaborators, or are we going to do it through strategic alignments with competitors or through internal R&D efforts? These are some of the questions, and each one of these questions has to be weighed within the framework of the costs which would cost to build the resources. The strategic plan elements would have to include sales, that is the products, the services, the profits, the technology, finance, sources of finance and applications, where are you going to use the finances during the next 5 years, the manufacturing, that is the processes which you are using today, what would be innovations and improvements in such processes, processes which you may not be using today, but you may require to use in order to remain competitive in the next 5 years. Similarly, machinery, and similarly the location. The strategic plan must necessarily include the people, the manpower, not only the type of people, but the quantity of people, the kind of knowledge and skills, compensation, sourcing of the people, industrial relations, productivity, culture, information processes. More and more, the competitiveness of the organization is becoming dependent upon the information technology deployed in the operational processes, in the forecasting processes, in the delivery processes to clients, and therefore to be on the forefront in terms of competition, to survive and prosper, it is important that the strategic plan also includes the information processes which will be followed, both in terms of hardware as well as software. Then the all important question of diversification. Today's product for ABC, they are doing well. The expertise is there, developed in the machinery they are making. There is a ready market because of the contacts of the founder of the organization. But within the next 5 years, the founder, who is in his late 60s and wishes to step aside, with his exit will probably go the resource that was available, that is his personal contacts with the large clients to whom the organization was selling. What would be the alternative to this? Should it leave a vacuum? What are the ways in which we have to overcome this apparent potential weakness in the marketing of the organization in the future? When they diversify, what sort of diversification should take place? Should the company diversify into the service sector, probably allied, like taking up maintenance of plants, refurbishing, retrofitting of machinery, which is essentially in the realm of the service sector? Should it proliferate its products into allied lines and go for paper machinery like BK was planning to do? If they went into paper machinery, although it was allied in its manufacturing processes, would they have the expertise to market and sell these machinery? Because the expertise today for marketing was essentially in the government sector of sugar and cement, and there was a big vacuum. There was no expertise available within the company to go into the paper and pulp sector of the industry, and no contacts. Geographical expansion. Already the engineering unit had run into militant trade unionism. Would it be wise, therefore, to think in terms of stopping all further expansions within the engineering unit in the same location? Would it be prudent, therefore, to diversify geographically also, in the sense the same sugar as well as the cement machinery which is being marketed today and built in one location? Should the location be diversified? Should the plant, a second plant, be set up in another state where part of it would be manufactured, so that in the event of labor problems, in the event of a shutdown of the one factory, the company's business is not crippled and it still can produce from the second factory. If they are going into a new line like the paper, what would be an ideal location, keeping in mind the industry norms, keeping in mind the customer profile of the new product, where they are located, keeping in mind the costs for the transportation of these machinery. So all these are strategic questions which have to be addressed and planned and provided for. And last and the most important is the management of the organization. As we see, this is a small entrepreneurial business which has flourished and grown. It has come to a stage where they are going for growth, expansion and diversification. This is where so far it has been run with the knowledge and expertise of the founder and largely by people whose main asset was loyalty to the founder, not so much their technical expertise, not so much as their expertise in administration, but basically chosen and promoted due to loyalty to the founder. This is classical case of phase and the phased growth of entrepreneurial organization. But today the management was brittle. It was all said and done. This company was a one-man show. ABC Industries, although the name of the company depicted AK, BK and CK, but in actual terms, who was the man who made all the decisions? It was AK, the founder. He was trying to delegate some of his responsibilities. He was trying to maybe professionalize the company by taking a professional person as a deputy general manager who would fill the place of the general manager who was due to retire. But it was in a sense an ad hoc reaction to the realization that the time has now come to professionalize the management and institutionalize the processes. As you have noted from the case, basically their strength was manufacturing but not marketing. It was selling. It was basically a commercial activity. The contacts of AK were already there, and through these contacts the orders came. They had to be supplied and fulfilled. Marketing per se was missing. What about HR? HR was totally missing. In the words of AK, we still don't have a personnel department. And he says that personnel department may not be necessary at this stage, but possibly a good accounting department should be set up. So it appears that on the administrative side, the commercial side, they did not have a HR department. They had a purchase and stores department because that was essential to carrying on the manufacturing activity, and they didn't have a human resource department at all. So these are some of the management gaps. So when one talks of the strategic plan, one has to look at how this company is going to be managed in the next 5 years. Okay. Any questions? Yes. What should the plan include in terms of finance? Good. That's a good question. In any strategic plan, whatever plan you make is going to cost you money. And the plan must outline in a fair degree of detail what would be the money required, the money resource, how much and where from. Are you, for instance, going to rely heavily on borrowings in order to finance and fund your diversification? Or are you going to depend, all right, on going to the market and becoming public, that is raising money from the market? Because each process has its cost attached to it. The actual cost in terms of money and also the qualitative cost in terms of control. In the latter case, for instance, if you decide that it would be more advantageous strategically to go to the market for money. What really are you doing? You are taking money from the market, but handing over part of your absolute control to others. That means the price you pay is handing over and diluting some of your controls. So these are the kind of issues which have to be analyzed and then put into the plan, fitted into the plan. Any other questions? Okay. Paper machinery. Should they go into the paper machinery? Anyone would like to give an answer to that or respond to that? Yes? Okay. Paper machinery, strength of going into paper machinery, as he says, is that the machineries for manufacture, which they already have in the plant, lend themselves very well to manufacturing paper machinery, because the kind of machinery they have to manufacture cement plants and sugar plants, the same type of machine tools, fabrication processes, assembly processes are really required to make the paper machinery. So looking at it from the manufacturing point of view, it seems to make good sense to go into paper machinery making. But the worrying point, the point of concern, is that they don't seem to have much expertise, if any, in selling these paper machinery. And let us remember that these are distinctly different industries. The sugar and the cement industry is very, very distinct and have nothing really in common with the paper industry, which is governed by different considerations. Only form of alignment may be that these are not commodities, these are not retail hardware, these are project selling. The customer profile will be large clients, but the industry is unknown. So one has to take a balanced view that whereas you do have distinct advantages in the diversification into paper machinery by way of the manufacture, and implicit in that is by way of costs. At the same time, one has to remember and budget for the fact that we have to take a whole new set of people, maybe from the paper industry, in order to be able to sell successfully in the paper industry. Okay. When finally the plan comes, it will be a document, therefore, which will comment upon the products today and the products after 5 years, the market today, the market after 5 years, the technology which is used today, and the technology that will be deployed in the next 5 years, the kind of processes, the kind of information network that would be necessary to run the organization successfully, the kind of HR, the human resource, which have to be built, and the type of management that will have to be employed. In the event of multiple units, should it be a functional structure, should it be a divisionalized structure, an organization chart should be a part of the strategic plan. And therefore, it should be a holistic plan whereby the projections of the sales and the costs and the profits should be made as part and parcel of the plan. So that looking at the plan 5 years from today, you could get an idea on what you had planned and what you actually achieved. And that would be a test for your expertise and your insights and ability into making a good strategic plan for the next 5 years and beyond. I think with this kind of a framework, in the next session, we will have a presentation by the usual groups who have been doing the presentations, and the rules for the presentation will remain the same. So, next week when we meet, we shall have presentations from each of the group leaders. Thank you very much.